for the sake of time, for the sake of what's flowing through my head right now, I try to keep it basic. So there was a period of time prior to the robbery at the bank that one of the staff members had a hit and run on their car at the bank. I was on duty at the time. It was nearing the evening and closed. I was looking out the side window and I saw a vehicle. It looks like their bumper had grabbed a hold of her bumper, but the vehicle kept pulling, and almost pulling her car from out of its spot. But then by the time I got out there, they sped off. There was no acknowledgement of what they had done, but they had done damage to her car. So she did what the normal things would do, you know, what we did, you know, call the police and made the report and all of that. So that was in the back of my mind. Now, mind you, again, the robbery, I felt so bad about what happened with that robbery. And look, loving God, living for him the best of my ability, knowing that his covering is there with me, because again, it's a bank. It's a bank. So what the security officer didn't know is I had somebody watching over me that he knew nothing about. It wasn't a 44 Magnum, it wasn't a 357, but it was the angels of the Lord encamped round about. And I walked that way because Roosevelt Bank, they trusted me. I had a key to the bank. Remember I told y'all I'm an early bird. I would be the first one in the bank. I didn't go to the bank where the activity was. I would go down to the lower level, but I had a key. They trusted me. This was one of the places that while I was waiting for them to show up in the day, I would go down in that basement where the bathrooms and things were, and I would walk the grounds and talk to God and, yep, look up at the ceiling tiles and say, one day, I'm not going to be here, but I want to remember where I am now. Yes, I did that there. So, after the robbery happened, I kind of changed up things. How many know that sometimes it takes negative things to happen before you change the way you do things, the way you scope out things, the way you observe things? So I would monitor how I did and what I did around the bank now. Oh, yes, I did. I watched a little bit closer. I would go outside more. I would watch the cars as they went around to the drive-up window to do their transactions. And on this particular day, keep in mind, I want to highlight, I felt so bad about what happened on the day the bank was robbed. I was standing there watching, minding my own, letting the sweet thoughts of God go through my head, and I'm observing the cars and making mental notes as the cars and things are going by. And then as the cars were going by, one car in particular went by. And it was like a light clicked on in my head. And it clicked on, and I was like, what? And I looked, and I was like, that car looks like the car that damaged, I think her name was Rita, that damaged Rita's car. And I looked, and I'm standing there. And like I said, I do things differently. And I said to myself, I said, self! What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because it's about to turn the corner and it's about to be waited on at the driver windows. I think we had 3 lanes at the driver windows at Roosevelt Bank at the time. So once she made that left-hand turn, I wasn't going to see the car anymore. So I had to think fast what I was going to do. I was like, I'm almost certain that was the car. So instead of going behind the car, the route that it took, I went around the left side of the bank where the cars would come out after being serviced at the drive-up window. So when I went around to the car and I got to the front of the car, it was confirmed all on the inside of me that this is the car that did the damage to Rita's car. So look, can I just be myself? Because I was being myself then. I was like, I walked up to the car. I put my hand on the hood of the car. And I said out loud, I said, this car was involved in a hit-and-run accident. And there was cars on either side. They looking at me like I'm crazy. But I'm looking at the car, and the person behind the wheel got nervous, started looking down. And it happened to be a she. It was written, she didn't have to say a thing. It was written all over her face. I said, you will not remove from here. I looked at the tellers in the window and I said, contact the police and let them know that this car is the car that damaged Rita's car. The branch manager came outside. When she would stand there in her professional way, she had her notes in her hand, and she would, you know, like hold her arms close to her chest, like a mother holding her baby close. And she looked over at me and she smiled. And I melted on the inside because, like I said, because I felt so bad that they got robbed and I couldn't do nothing about it. I wanted to. When I tell the story later, you'll know I wanted to. But I couldn't do nothing then. But the police came. And I listened to her. She said, yeah, it was me. She said, I was scared. I didn't know what to do, so I just pulled off. And after it was all said and done, that was a morning. The police came to me. And this is a positive time that the police came. Because I've had instances with police that aren't like myself. But this time the police officer came to me. He said, sir, he said, what you did was a good job. He says, I want to commend you on what you did. And I appreciated that. And you know, if there were bankers at Roosevelt Bank, if there were wealthy people, they were ready to do any and everything for their security officer. I tell you, that was a day. That was a day. But that kind of leads us into where we're going. Those of us that are believers, those of us that love God, that love God, don't you know that you're watchmen on the wall? You're watchmen on the wall. You're watchmen on the wall. You're watchmen on the wall. Huh? You're safe keepers on behalf of wherever you are, at home, at work. Even if you don't have the tangible, visible things that life can offer, you have your love for God, the love for the Lord, the love for source, the love for light, the love for good to hold fast to be a covering for those that are not. And that leads me next to where I'm going to next. Next. Like I said, first natural, then spiritual. There's a couple of things spinning on the show and tell screen, and when it rolls around you can read it, but I'll just go ahead and jump right into it. We've got cryptic on there. Cryptic. What does cryptic mean? It means being mysterious, obscure, hidden. Some definitions talk about the occult. It can be ambiguous in meaning. They have an example sentence here. It says, he found his boss's utterances too cryptic. Cryptic. So the cryptic, what is hidden, what is not seen with the visible eye. There's some underlying things that you have to look into if you really want to know. The next word I have for the day, for today's talk, for today's message, for today's speaking is connoisseur. I'm going to break down what we're talking about, but connoisseur, an expert, judge in matters of taste, one who understands the details, technique, or principle of an art. Connoisseur. I'm going to say an expert, a maven. And then the next word I have is conscience. Conscience. It means an inner feeling or voice viewed as acting as a guide to the rightness or wrongness of one's behavior. I have a sentence written down on my notes that said he had a guilty conscience about his past events. Kind of like that woman that I told her, this car, I didn't say her, y'all. I said, this car is not moving one spot. I sure did. This car is not moving one spot. If I were to give you a subject of what I want to talk about today, that subject would be, it would be this. It would be the conscientious connoisseur of all things cryptic. The conscientious Because we looked up conscience, what it is, what it is, what it is. You have that inner voice. Some people, I'm not intuitive. I don't discern. God ain't talking to me. Look! You got a conscience, don't you? When you're going down the expressway doing 95 and you look over to the right and the sign says 65, ain't something on the inside talking to you, letting you know that, hey, if you keep down this road at this speed, you might get pulled over. You got a conscience. Oh, yeah. You know right from wrong. So if I were to give you a subject to this talk, we'll call it, it would be a conscientious connoisseur of all things cryptic. I'm going to break it down a little bit more so you understand where I'm going. Let me move a little bit further. At that same bank that I just talked about, Roosevelt Bank. Let me wipe a little sweat away. I'm going to try not to get too excited. T probably saying with her eyes, nope, too late. One day at the bank, because I made, can I say, acquaintance. I got to know a lot of customers. While being at that bank. I got to know a lot of personalities. You know, I saw retired. I saw people that had businesses. I saw people that had money. All types. Looking good, feeling good, smelling good. I saw all types. I watched the workings of those that worked the counters. I watched the workings of those that waited on customers at the desks that had individual needs. There were times I would go out to the ATM while they filled the ATMs with cash. Like I said, the bank trusted me. I had to be there. I was there with them. And that money looked good. But I digress. So anyway, so on this particular day, a man came up to me. I don't know if he was trying to recruit me. I don't know. But he said, listen. He said, I'm a part of something. He says, I want you to come and see. And, you know, I guess he was proud of whatever it was he was in or whatever he was involved in. I don't know if it was religious. I don't know if it was some sort of whatever it was. I said to him, just being me, I was like, well, sir, what is it? He says, well, I can't tell you. Need I say more? I mean, I don't know what he was in. You know, some of these movements that are out there, you know, these secret teams, these secret meetings and all of that, you know, if I'm going to be a part of something, I want to know what it's about before I step one foot in that direction. When he couldn't do that, I bidded him farewell. Thank you, but no thank you. Not interested. Not interested. You know, there might have been some, it was too cryptic for me. It was too much hidden. You know, and being a part of the ecclesiastical background, the ecclesiastical body, Pentecostal body for so long, you know, you got to tell me something. You got to tell me something. You got to tell me something. Because I want to believe, obviously, he saw something in me, you know, that he wanted to share, and he thought that maybe I could benefit from him. You know, I was like, thank you, but no thank you. Not interested. Especially if you can't tell me nothing about it. And that leads me to the next part. I'm going somewhere. Bear with me. You guys, bear with me. That leads me to the song of the day. I'm going to wait for the screen to scroll there. But I want to hone in on